Today's warfighters are facing more complex peer and near-peer threats than ever before. In this interview, we spoke with Dan Corbett, CEO of Valiant Integrated Services, to find out more about these threats and what we can do to combat them. We also asked Dan what's driving the increased consolidation and competition in the GovCon market and how he thinks the industry will move forward. If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Also, we would love to hear from you. If you have a question for the leaders of GovCon, please drop a comment below or email studio@executivemosaic.com. Hello, and welcome to Executive Mosaic's video interview series. I'm Summer Myatt, and here to speak with me today is Dan Corbett, CEO of Valiant Integrated Services. Dan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Summer, it's great to be on. Thank you for having me.
So Dan, what's your outlook on the global defense landscape today? What significant changes or trends are you seeing, and how are those factors impacting government contractors?
For firms like Valiant, the outlook is very strong. Over the last 12 to 18 months, we've seen a clear shift, a focus on counterterrorism, in the Middle East, Iraq, and Afghanistan, to a focus on near-peer threats. We're seeing increased investment and focus in Europe, and obviously China and Iran continues to be, a focus for, our market. Counterterrorism will always be a focus. In the context of Valiant, our outlook is strong. We see plenty of areas of growth and increased support the United States and partner nations. Our two largest market segments that we support are training and readiness. By far, that's our largest piece of work that we have. We have over 3,000 employees focused on training and readiness support for the United States government and partners. We're the number one provider of training services to the Army and Army National Guard. We do live virtual constructive training, simulation training for aviation pilots and mechanics, and we do some FMS training. On the other large portion of Valiant as an enterprise is mission support. We provide some of the most critical, support to critical missions. We're the number one provider of linguist support to the DoD. We maintain some of the most critical facilities and equipment for the DoD, hospitals and laboratory. And from a logistics perspective, we provide large-scale mission support, logistics support for the DoD. We ship over 50,000 tons of food to some of the most austere places in the world with 99% fill rates. The services we offer are going to be in high demand over the next 3 to 5 years.
Dan, you mentioned Valiant's two core markets, training and readiness and mission support. And I know Valiant also recently tapped into the intelligence sector. What's your plan for continued expansion in Valiant's core market areas? And what can you tell us about your entry into the intelligence space?
Yeah, those three areas, we see very strong avenues for growth. And so in the training area, again, Valiant for over 3 to 4 decades has been providing training services to the United States government. That particular market for us we see is very strong. We're very excited to compete on the up and coming WTRS program, which the Army's going to put a solicitation out in the next 12 to 18 months. And again, that program's a 10-year program. It's $5 to $8 billion. So it's a very large area for growth for us. With the current conflict in the Ukraine, we see an influx of requirements related to FMS training. And so last year, we were awarded FMS support, global support for F-16 training. And for us, the FMS market's a growth area. Also on the technology front, from a training perspective, we're supporting the next generation of training equipment for the Army. And that training equipment, that program's called the Synthetic Training Environment. And so we're playing a major role in the development of the next generation of training equipment. On the mission side, again, the markets we're very specific in what we address on the mission side. We're going to continue to grow our linguist business. The Special Forces have a very large program which we'll compete on called SOCOM LSS. The critical facilities that we maintain, we'll continue to grow those areas, as well as look to address adjacent markets, in the civilian markets, being Department of State, DOJ, and other civilian support. On the intel and analytics business that we stood up, it's a true growth engine for us. It's about $100 million worth of revenue for us now. We've built it to about $100 million. We see that in the next 3 to 5 years doubling and tripling. Again, we service those markets with the core services that we provide our other customers. So it's training, mission support, linguist support, deployed resources, a little bit of construction, and some support from a engineering and analysis perspective. So again, that's a very bright spot for us. We stood up, a line of business, just the last 6 months, and we've seen it grow very good for us.
So Dan, emerging technologies like AI, ML, cloud, and datification are really transforming warfare. Where are you seeing the most exciting opportunities to deliver better capabilities to our warfighters, and how are you harnessing those opportunities?
Great question. It's very clear in our space that data is king. Our customers are looking for us to utilize the vast amount of data that's generated through our programs to improve our overall service offerings. Where we see, the data becoming, and more and more important, in the training area, AI and ML, that type of services are in high demand, and we see it growing across, our training portfolio. In the mission area, a good example of data, technology, AI, and ML, supply chain and logistics. Our customers are looking for us to shorten cycle times, improve demand planning, reduce waste, and drive overall costs down. Another area is in facilities and equipment maintenance. We're utilizing it across the portfolio to provide proactive maintenance plans. Again, this allows our clients to extend the life of their assets and reducing their overall cost. Just across our enterprise and across all of our customer bases, these requirements are increasing every day. Technology insertion, is a key item in everything that we do and everything we're going to do going forward.
And I know that mission readiness is a huge part of Valiant's offerings. What are your thoughts on how we can improve mission readiness for the warfighter who today is facing more and more complex peer and near-peer threats?
Training and readiness is our largest service offering. We've been providing these services for decades. For example, our operation in Korea. Over 30 years ago, we worked with the USG to design, develop, and construct the Korean Battle Simulation Center. Valiant has been operating that for the United States government in Korea since we developed it, decades ago. Another example is, the Joint Readiness Training Center down in Fort Polk, Louisiana. We've got over 1,000 associates focused on training and readiness. We do 8 to 12 large-scale exercises per year. With our Army National Guard customer, we do over 5 to 8 large-scale exercises across the United States. And that training is exportable, so we travel to the sites to do the training. With the Guard, we do over 300,000 training events per year. The three kind of areas that I think are key for readiness, the first being muscle memory. And muscle memory, with the drawdown, across Iraq and Afghanistan, soldiers don't get exposure to real-time situations. So it's key that we keep the muscle memory within soldiers, in good shape. And then modernization. We talked a little bit earlier about technology, but infused technology, both in the equipment and the training that we do. Support for the Ukraine has given us a unique opportunity to upgrade equipment. And then on the training side, we're supporting the Army's efforts, as I talked about earlier, to modernize the training equipment. The current Miles technology has been used for decades, and we're working with the Army on the synthetic training environment program. That's the next generation of training devices. And then the third area of focus, I would say, major area is, and when you look at the Ukraine and how agile it's required, what's required to fight near peer threats is develop agile leaders. And we've got over 24 former general officers focused on developing the Army's next generation of agile leaders. So those are the three areas I'd say are the most key areas from a training readiness perspective.
Dan, I'm curious, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing the GovCon industry today, and what is your take on the path forward?
Yeah, I see these challenges as opportunities, and so I think if you look at the markets in general, supply chain disruptions over the last 12 to 18 months, obviously talent shortages, and then just current overall underlying market conditions with inflation and pending potential recession. So on the supply chain front, we see this as a true opportunity for Valiant. It's a core service that we offer. We do this on a large scale, global. The supply chain challenges that we see in the GovCon industry, we think we can address with our in-house capability. Talent shortages, obviously, we saw over the last 12 to 18 months the Great Recession, and so we've got a unique capability at Valiant to hire the next generation of leaders within industry, and one of our kind of core capabilities and areas that we excel is we hire former military folks. Our staff is made up of over a third of our staff is made up of former retired or folks that spent a good amount of time in the military. So that's how we're addressing that area. On the inflation front, obviously over the last 12 months we've seen record inflation. Obviously the customer needs us, from a price perspective and a cost perspective, to do everything possible to keep our costs down. Valiant has done that, and Valiant's a true leader from a cost perspective. So we're addressing that issue just through obviously tightening our spending, reducing costs for our end customer.
So Dan, how are you seeing GovCon companies respond to increased consolidation and competition in the market? Do you anticipate that this trend will continue?
Summer, great question. I do see it, in the future to continue. In the last probably 3 to 6 months, we've seen a notable slowdown. I think the drivers of that, obviously are market drivers. The increase in inflation, concerns over longer term recessions and higher interest rates have really kind of slowed the market. There is kind of a race for size, and I say when you look at government services, the government services industry, you see kind of these massive mega services businesses being set up, and so I do see that continue. There's been highly fierce competition for assets in the market. Valiant has been active as well with acquisitions, and we will continue to do that. And we see kind of the consolidation, as an opportunity, and a couple areas that we see opportunity as. One, the large OEMs will continue to shed government services assets, and so you see, the Lockheed Martins over the last kind of 10 years, that they've moved, away from and out of services. Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, all of the large OEMs, have slowly shed government assets. So we'll continue to look for opportunities as that happens. And then within, the consolidation of some of these large mega services firms, we're seeing portfolio shaping in which they're looking to shed some of the assets they purchased. So we see that as an opportunity. So with the consolidation, I mean, it will continue. I think at a slower rate, and I think both from the large OEMs, continuing to shed government services assets, and the large mega services firms, consolidating, looking to, portfolio shape. I see those two areas as opportunities for Valiant.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for speaking with us today and for all the work you do at Valiant.
Great, Summer. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. And thank you for all you do for the industry.